Chapter 4 of Tractor Ballet Gone Bad. Our next endeavor at escape was one we'd not bothered to discuss previously. It has seemed so hopeless, that being going up to the same wind-swept ice that had brought us down. Todd's reasoning ran the gamut from dubious to reasonable. I was smaller and more nimble, and already practiced in scaling up the tractor. He didn't mention we were trusting luck as to regards to its stability. I was smaller and therefore would catch less wind. My superior knowledge of the lay of the land could prove advantageous. A valid argument to some degree, or he could be stroking my ego. He was wet and half froze. The sympathy card. You have considered, I'm sure, I responded, that while the way the draw is shaped and kind of bowl-like, it's unlikely, but not outside the realm of possibility that I might be swept down into the open water at the bottom. Oh, of course, I've taken that into consideration, he replied. Well, I bet you have. No, I'm taller and stronger than you. I'll lurk down there as far as I dare, and if you come sailing over the top, I'll latch onto you. Well, you can rest assured I'll draw great comfort from that concept while I'm up there, I responded, beginning my ascent up the tractor. I crouched on the hood, calculating my tactics. I wanted to quarter into the wind as best I could, but were I to be swept back into the ravine, a more than distinct possibility, I didn't want to be at either end of the ravine, the waterfall at one end, the open water at the other. I also wanted to travel the shortest distance possible. Having assessed the pertinent factors, I launched myself up into the wind. I aimed at a spot midway between the house and the barn. Immediately as my feet hit the ice, it spun me around, the wind, and limbs flailing, I shot back towards the ravine. I fell heavily on my ass, and the frozen lip at the top of the ravine bounced and landed face first in a snowdrift that had accumulated at the bottom. Todd ran up laughing hysterically as I stood up and dusted myself off. Sorry to laugh, Scotty, as I stared sourly at him. That was hilarious. You look like a cartoon. I'm sure you'll find it understandable if I don't share your mirth, I responded, rubbing my battered hindside. Crouched once again on the grill, my plan was to stay slow. I'd spring off, slide on my belly as far as I could, and then attempt to crawl. The result was I came spinning back over the top like a frisbee, landing face first again and knocking the wind out of myself. As I rolled over, no doubt looking like a fish out of water, gasping to get my breath, I found Todd leaning over me, failing miserably to contain his laughter as he helped me to my feet. Sorry to laugh, Scott, but you gotta see the humor in this. I'm sure it's a matter of perspective, I panted as I handed him my gloves. My next attempt was to belly crawl. I managed less than 10 feet of headway before the wind peeled me off the ice and swept me, clawing desperately backwards. Over the edge I went, landed on my feet, folded and sprawled on my back. You're attempting a variety of strategies up there, Todd giggled as he pulled me to my feet yet again. Lacking any semblance of a courteous response, I merely grunted and wobbled back towards the tractor. As I was struggling my way up the hood of the tractor, Todd called up, Do you think you could monkey up there a little quicker than that? You've had enough practice. I'm half frozen down here, you know. What'd he say? He yelled. I didn't catch that. My attempt this time differed little from its immediate predecessor, and the end result was much the same. As I was dusting myself off, Todd said, I didn't get what you said up there. Something about choking a goat? The acoustics must be peculiar down here, Todd, I replied. I said I wished we could build a boat. Well, the boat would be a good thing, but I don't get your thinking. There isn't so much of a stick of wood down here. Believe me, Todd, you don't want to get my thinking. Well, this is no time for fanciful notions, he said. You need to stay focused on the task at hand. I wondered if I really cared if his carcass would float. We'd better discuss strategy, he said. You don't seem to be making much headway up there. Staring at my torn and bloodied fingers, I came to the conclusion that choking him was too swift and merciful. If I somehow managed to get out of here without him, I'd leave him to freeze or drown. Give me my gloves back, I said, struggling to keep my temper in check. Oh, geez, your hands are bloody muss. They must be half froze, he commented, handing me my gloves back. Huh? Why do you keep prattling on about a boat? Boat's just wishful thinking, Scott, he continued to pontificate. What do you think? One's just going to fall out of the sky? We need practical solutions based on reality. I'm half froze, you know. I felt like saying the reality is, when the sensation returns to my fingers, what's the furthest you've gotten, Todd asked. Maybe 20 feet at best, I replied. Well, that's not good. How far is the closest you figure you gotta get? Well, a good 100 yards or more. Shit. You want to try it? No, it's not involving you. It's just, well, you know, he faltered to a halt. Neither of us wanted to contemplate our last recourse for escape. What if I came up with you, Todd suggested. What for? I inquired. Well, I don't know. Hey, maybe you could lie on the ice and I could push you off the tractor, and if you had your legs bent and, well, he stumbled to a halt. I suppose not. Oh, I see you thinking. The two of us sort of uncoil like some big multi-stage spring, and I go 100 yards uphill across the ice into the wind. Well, you can't deny the serious sound. We're just lacking adequate propulsional force, Todd quipped. Oh, don't take me wrong, Todd. I'm all for it. I get a longer ride. You'll be back before me, so I get to land on something soft like your head. Negative. Seriously, though, there isn't any hope of us getting out this way, is there? He finished softly. Not without a couple of ice picks. Well, I guess if there were any tools on the tractor, you'd already thought of that. Yeah, I thought of that the first time I sailed back over the top. Anything we could tear off to use? Nah, I gave consideration to that the third and fourth times I was sailing back over the top. Well, Todd said, we didn't really think that was going to work anyhow, but I want you to know I really do appreciate your trying. I mean, well, despite laughing and all, I know you're risking a broken limb or worse. And hey, wait a minute, Todd cried, bouncing up off his haunches. I might have a knife. Really? Do you think so? I asked with renewed enthusiasm as Todd sifted through his pockets. Aha! He cried triumphantly. Found it. It was a tiny little red jackknife with plastic sides. Handle and blade combined didn't measure 2 inches. You don't look impressed, Todd said. Well, I was hoping for more. How am I going to use this, you figure? I asked as he handed me the wee thing. You could plunge it into the ice and pull yourself. Plunge, I interjected. Plunge, you say? I wiggled the feeble blade about in its socket. Maybe you could carve a handhold and carve, I said, skeptically wiggling the tiny blade about. Todd valiantly made another effort. Well, maybe whittle's more like it. You whittle a finger hole and reach forward and finger another whittle and another. Well, check my progress this time tomorrow, I said, heading towards the tractor. I expect to be about halfway across by then. You're actually going to try it? Todd said in amazement. I was whittling the third hole when a gust dislodged me, but holding the wee knife into the ice to act as a rudder, I glided over the top with some semblance of control, landed and managed to stay on my feet. Well, if nothing else, this is doing wonders for your dismount, Todd commented as I soldiered back to the tractor. The second time out, I was whittling what was now the 8th hole when the wind got the better of me. With the increased distance, I came in a little faster and didn't quite manage to stay on my feet. In answer to Todd's inquiry as to my progress, I reported I thought I was 30 feet out or so, and I was whittling each hole a little bit more en route each time. You intend to carry on then? Todd asked with a mixture of awe and hope. I explained I was dubious as to the knife's life expectancy and therefore intended to work a little slower, but I was encouraged thus far. "Once more under the breech," I yelled as I crawled out onto the ice. I was feeling pretty pleased whittling away. It was about now my 15th hole. I'd made about 7 holes whittled in just this one go when a sustained blast of that damn wind got the better of me yet again. I was aggravated, but otherwise concerned as I ruddered along back towards the ravine again, using the knife as a rudder. This is almost getting to be old hat. I was working at a poke at Todd, something to the effect of my absence being so protracted he must get lonely, as I again came feet first into the ravine, and then it all went bad.